gets on the internet, meets somebody really quick, gets married, okay, I'm here. And decides to continue that life through the case so that she can stay here. And that's kind of what we're going to share with you today, is a lot of people have heard us say, she lied about this, she lied about that. Well, we're going to read to you right from the transcripts today. We're going to read to you exactly things that happen in court so you can make up your mind and not have to just think that, you know, what we're saying is the absolute truth. You're going to hear it for your own. When we read it, we will read it exactly verbatim, but we will not use any kind of annotation or any kind of acting or voice, because we don't want to have anyone say that we changed the meaning of the words. The words are going to stand for themselves. Okay? So, I need some help here. Who's up? Yeah, what I'm going to do is we're going to have a few people play different, read different parts, so it's not too confusing. I'm going to play the part of the accuser. We are not going to use anybody's name. We want to keep this simple. So it'll be the accuser. This is the prosecutor. This is the defense lawyer, and this person here will be some smaller parts: a neighbor, a boyfriend of the accuser, the detective that investigated the case. All right, and we'll let you know who we're talking about as we do it. I'm going to switch my glasses just a minute. It's terrible getting old. All right, the first lie we want to expose. The accuser testified that she didn't have sex with anyone but Ajay until after she moved out, which was in December 2003, and that boyfriend number 3, we can't use the name, was the first boy she had sex with. However, boyfriend number 2 testifies that he was having sexual relations with the accuser before boyfriend 3, and while she lived at home with the Devs. All right, so the prosecutor starts questioning the accuser.
Okay, the 3 times that you had an abortion, did you, during that time, were you having sexual relations with anybody other than Mr. Dev?
No.
Do you remember approximately when your first consensual sexual encounter with someone was?
Yes, it was after I moved out from my apartment, from their house.
After December of 2003?
That's right.
And what was that young man's name?
All right, we're not saying his name, we're saying boyfriend number 3.
Okay, boyfriend number 3 is the first boyfriend you had sex with. Is this correct?
Yes.
Is boyfriend number 3 the first person you had sex with?
Yes. All right, now the defense attorney is going to question the boyfriend. Boyfriend number 2, sorry.
The district attorney, on many occasions, asked you if your relationship with the accuser was or became romantic. You said yes. Does that mean you were having sexual relations with her?
Yes.
That included sexual intercourse?
Yes.
She was still living in the Dev home at that time when you were having sexual relations with her, weren't you?
Yes.
Prosecutor. How often would the 2 of you have sex? How often would the 2 of you have sex?
Maybe once a week.
And that was at your mom's house?
Yes.
All right, so that's the first lie. You can obviously see the contradiction there. Okay, lie number 2, exposed. The accuser claims that she never had boys over the house while her parents were not at home. 2 people testified that the accuser did in fact have boys over the house when her parents were not at home, and these visits happened to coincide with her first pregnancy.
Was there ever a time before you moved out when Ajay and Peggy, they were both at home, and you came home after school, met a boy who pulled up in a Mercedes, and the 2 of you went into the house and closed the front curtains so the neighbors across the street couldn't see?
That's not true.
That never happened?
No.
Not once?
No. Only friend came over was boyfriend number 2, and he didn't drive a Mercedes.
And you closed the curtains when he came in?
No. And I changed the name to boyfriend number 2 on that one. All right, the defense lawyer questions one of the accuser's girlfriend.
Did you ever go by the J Street house during the day when Mr. and Mrs. Dev apparently were at work to see the accuser with a boy?
Yes. And I need to interject this. This was one of her best friends.
Did you see what kind of car he drove?
Yes. It was an old Mercedes.
Did you know who the boy was?
Yes.
Who?
Boyfriend number 1.
All right, now the defense lawyer questions a neighbor of the Devs.
Did you ever see the accuser come by the house during her high school years when both parents were gone?
Yes.
And did she sometimes meet boys there?
Yes.
Describe what it was.
When the boys came, 1 or 2 boys, it was usually one at a time from what I remember. But the curtains would get closed and then they would leave and then they would be opened. They would open them and then leave. That was otherwise friends just came in and out.
Now, do you recall any of the vehicles in particular that either of any of these boys drove?
One in particular was a black Mercedes. It had tinted windows. That's all
About how many times did you see him come over?
He probably the most. I think it was about 3, maybe 4 times.
All right, so you saw the contradiction in that one. Okay, she said never, they said yes. Lie number 3. The accuser changed her story about whether oral sex occurred or not. At first she states that it never occurred. Then she states it occurred a couple of times. Then she states it occurred many times. The investigative detective, Terry explained that part, is interviewing the accuser during a recorded video.
At any point, did he put his blank anywhere else inside you other than your private spot? And when I'm referring to any other spot, it also includes your mouth.
No, because I just thought it was disgusting to do. Put his thing in? I mean, it's disgusting to put that thing in my mouth. I wouldn't do it.
So that's no for both.
Yeah. Now the defense lawyer questions her during trial.
Okay, so that's 3 times in a month, times 3 years. So you had oral sex roughly, give or take, a few times between 30 and 50 occasions.
Yes. There were other pieces in here, but because of content, we had to pick the simplest ones. All right, we're going to go to lie number 4. The accuser lied about forging Ajay's signature on a medical document. The defense lawyer is questioning the accuser.
And then I see a signature for Ajay, a middle initial, Dev 5803. Did Mr. Dev sign that in your presence?
I believe so.
Did you write the name Ajay Dev on page 18 of Exhibit 2?
No,
That's not your handwriting?
it doesn't look like mine.
You don't recall doing that?
No,
Do you recall Mr. Dev signing that in your presence?
he was with me the whole time. At the trial, after a handwriting expert testified that the signature on the form at the pregnancy clinic was not likely Ajay Dev's, the accuser changes her previous testimony from what she'd said at the preliminary hearing, which is what you just heard. Now the defense lawyer questions the accuser at the trial.
Now, you told us the other day that you recognized the handwriting for the signature Ajay K. Dev as, in fact, being your handwriting, right?
Yes.
Because you, in truth, and in fact, signed his name. Is that right?
Yes. All right, line number 5. The accuser claims to have had 3 abortions, but medical records indicate otherwise. The prosecutor questions the accuser.
All right. Do you recall, did you become pregnant more than once?
Yes.
Do you recall how many times you became pregnant?
I recall becoming 3 times.
3 times.
Yes. All right, the medical record shows January 2nd, miscarriage. May 8th, January 2nd, 2003, miscarriage. May 8th, 2003, abortion. November 4th, 2003, negative pregnancy test. November 5th, 2003, negative STD test. These are records from the place she went. shows only 2. Later, the prosecution again questioned the accusers about the medical records.
Okay, so if I'm correct then, we just looked at the records for the first time you got pregnant, which was ended in a miscarriage. Another time when you got pregnant, which you actually took an abortion pill, and the third record, or the other records you saw, was not of an abortion, but you getting checked for diseases, correct?
Yes. And you'll see as we follow along, the story changes to whatever she needs it to be. All right, lie number 6, exposed. The accuser claimed that Ajay showed her pornography as a minor. She explains that Ajay showed her a porn movie called 18 and Confused. She states she saw this pornography on the computer when they lived on Concord Street. They only lived on Concord Street until November 1999. The investigative detective confirms that the movie accuser said she was shown on Concord Street was not even made until a year later. She also claims she saw the movie in '99 on a laptop that was not even purchased in 2001. Defense lawyer questions the accuser.
And you saw it back when you lived on Concord Street?
Yes.
And on Mr. Dev's laptop?
Yes.
You were 15 and you saw the movie 18 and Confused when you were 15, right?
Yes. Defense lawyer questions the detective who investigated this case.
Well, after you heard the accuser testify that she saw 18 and Confused in 1999, and then you confirmed that it didn't exist until it exists in 1999, did you put that finding in writing and give it to the district attorney so he could tell me?
Then prosecution objects.
Did you prepare a report about your findings that this movie didn't exist at the time the accuser said it did?
No, I was in the process of investigating it.
Well, other than you went on the internet and the internet told you that it wasn't created until January 2002, right?
January,
2002, right?
right.
All right, that's all we're going to read from the transcript. We just have a couple little things, emails that she wrote, and we thought it was important for you to hear this. During the trial, the prosecutor tried to portray the accuser as a person who was afraid to speak her mind and that she was controlled by Ajay. Accuser's words in an email dated January 1st, 2004 to her biological parents and CC to Ajay and Peggy Dev. The important thing to know here is when she sent this, it was about 4 weeks before she made her official allegations to the police. And she says, I like to speak my mind, and I always want to clarify if things are misunderstood from my side. I know the way I act is not a typical Nepali girl. I figured that I live in America, not in Nepal, where girls are mistreated and they are never heard. America allows its people to have a freedom of speech. I choose to live this lifestyle, and therefore I like to express myself and speak my mind. I never really thought of myself as a typical Nepali girl, even when I was in Nepal. I thought of myself as a, and I don't know how to say this, beta, which means son. I'm sorry. Anyway, the thing to keep in mind here is he portrays her as someone who's been raped for 5 years, 750 times, and she's afraid to tell anybody. And this is a message right here. She's writing how she is not afraid of freedom of speech. Another one I wanted to share with you. 3 weeks before the accuser went to the police with allegations of being raped 750 times, the accuser says this is part of an email sent to Ajay. All right, and also keep in mind that this was in reference to the allegation where she had said that they were physically abusing her. So this was right after she made that allegation. The only reason I wrote that letter to Papa is because you wrote a letter to my Papa about me and how everything was bad about me. You forgot to mention the good times that we shared with each other. And that's exactly the truth. The good times she shared with them are, everybody in this, most of the people in this crowd could stand up and say, we saw that, we witnessed it, we know that. So she admitted it to. All right, I think we're going to move on to, thank you very much for listening to that part of our program, and we're going to move on to our next speaker, Sanjay.